This is the unit we are studying, ICTTEN622. So we already discussed the assessment task 1 and assessment task 2 network 1. So today we discuss the assessment task 2 network 2. So these are the activities, first activities, second activities. Third, I think this should be third one. Fourth and fifth. Altogether, we need to face 5 activities. So go again for the assessment task 2 and read the instruction. So this assessment task requires you to produce 2 network architecture design. So one network architecture design we already discussed last week. So the second one we're going to discuss today. So you can complete this project based on the networks, equipments, and the information provided by your assessor. So this is the condition of this assessment. So you need to complete the assessment based on the information I provided you in the class. For a business that you are working for, this is not the condition. If you want to complete the task based on this condition, you need to get written approval. So you need to get a written approval before starting the task. So you'll collect evidence for this unit in the project portfolio. That means on these documents, project portfolio. So you need to collect all the evidence on this document, on this template. The steps you need to take are outlined below. Before you begin, complete the page 4 of the project portfolio. So you already completed the page 4 of project portfolio for network 1. Your name, assessor name, and the date you submit your assessment. Write down here the final date when you submit your assessment. So preparation. Prior to commencing the task, you have to meet with a client to find out about their requirements in relation to the ICT network architecture design. So you need to complete the task based on client requirements. I'm your client. So that means when you're completing your assessment, network 1 and network 2, the information that you discuss should be according to the discussion in the class. Because I'm your client, you need to meet the requirements of the client on the assessment. So you can't assume by yourself the requirements of the client. It has to be as per the description of the client. I'm your client, I'm giving you my requirements. At the meeting, you'll find out about, so you need to get this information from the client before starting the task. So 2 networks for which the design are required and current issue, problems, and the opportunities. We already discussed about the first network. I'm giving you the information about the second network. So scope of the work to be conducted, that means tasks that you need to be conducted, and the objectives, the specification for the network traffic demands, the budget available, and other details including site access arrangement and the timelines. I'll give you so all this information for the network 2 as well. I've already provided this information for the network 1. And based on this information, you need to produce the ICT network architecture design. You are now to produce your preliminary ICT network architecture designs. You are to determine the requirements of the network, including hardware, software needs, and to cater for the predicted network traffic. Select the most appropriate solution. Develop physical network diagrams. That means you need to develop the schematic of the architecture design. So report on impact of the design in terms of business requirements. That means how your design address the requirements of the client, the functional requirements of the client, and the quality requirements of the client, how the design will cater for the current and the future traffic demands. That means you need to explain how your network is capable to fulfill the current bandwidth demands of the client and the future traffic demands of the client. You need to explain that part. So expected performance parameters. What are the performance parameters that you need to use to check the performance of the networks that you design? And then estimated cost of the network, that means the hardware and the software cost of the network that you design. So these are the tasks you need to complete as per the instruction, the further instruction provided on project portfolio. That means need to as per these documents. We already discussed for the network one. Today I'm gonna go through the section one, the network two, ICT network architecture design. So work details, outline the details of the work is relevant to the network to be designed. As a minimum, this must be included, the scope of the work, that means the tasks that you need to complete it in this network. So for this network, you need to design network for the Milgram Institute. Okay. So need to design the tasks that need to design. So need to design the network architecture. Just give me a second, I'll expand this. For the Milgram Institute. So you need to design the network for Milgram Institute. They have existing network. I'll give you information about the existing network and the scope of the tasks that you need to complete it for the Milgram in this network. In network 2 are create an effective, secure, and the redundant and highly available network, just like a network 1. So create an effective. That means you need to address all the requirements of the client in new architecture design. And then this need to be secure. So need to install all the security features of the network. For example, need to have firewall, and then if you have wireless network designing, then you need to use encryption and authentication. So these are some of the security features you must implement for the new network architecture. And it should be scalable. That means if client wants to expand the network in future, so expansion should be easy without much changes on the existing network architecture. So it should be scalable. And the other one is redundant. So there should be more than one way to have the internet access to the client. That means if the internet access is not available from the main connection, still have path to provide the internet connection from the alternative path. And if there is some issue in one path in local area network, there must be on the path to provide the internet connection for the in devices. That means it should be redundant. And the other one is it should be highly available. You need to design the network as per the bandwidth requirements of the client. So it should be highly available. The highly availability parameters, one of the parameters that you address the highly availability parameters is redundant, because your network is redundant. If internet is not available from one path, still in devices can have internet access from the alternative path. That means your network is highly available. And the other aspect of the highly availability is the sufficient bandwidth. Need to design the network so that it can address the current requirements of the bandwidth as well as future requirements of the bandwidth of the client. And obviously the other one is the network should be designed within the budget of the client. So create an effective, secure, scalable, redundant, and highly available networks. It's up to you. Design one network or two networks. Architecture within budget for students and staffs. So for the Milgram Institute is an educational institute. So that means you need to design two networks, one network for the students and on the network for the staff. You can design one network and segregate logically one network for the students and on the network for the staff, or you can physically design two network, one for students and another one for the staff. So this is one of the requirements. And the other requirements is that the network architecture that you design should be able to handle the current and the future network traffic. So to design the network which can handle or which can cope with current and future network traffic or network demands. So this is the other requirements of the task that you need to complete. So which is the scope of the network. And the other one is students must provide the internet connection through the wireless medium, and the staff must provide the internet connection through the wired medium. So which is the requirements of the client. So students must have internet connection by wireless medium, and the staff must have internet connection from wired medium. So this is the requirements of the client. You need to provide the wireless internet connection for the students. You're designing your network, and all the staff must have internet connection through the wired medium. So this is the requirements of the client. And the under requirements of the client, which is the scope of the task, is the students are not allowed to access staff network. So you need to design the restriction between, you can design the restriction physically or logically. So students should not able to access the staff network. That means students are not allowed to print or have access to the printer or have other resources shared among the staff network. So which is the requirements that you need to complete for this designing. So these are the requirements which are the scope of the task for this network. And I'm giving you the business specification. So one of the business specification is the existing network. So I'll provide you the information about the existing network. Okay. For the existing network, what I do, I'll use Lucy chart. Malcolm have exactly this network at this moment. So they have internet, router, the wireless connection. I think more they have printer here. The components they have is printer, printer, sorry, well, so these are the staff and students the devices, both the staff devices and students devices having same wireless network. So that means the students are able to access the printer, the staff printer, and they are able to access the resources shared among the staff network. So this is the existing network. What I do is export this, export in the form the PNG, download. It's downloaded here. So what I do is set this Okay, open that documents with Microsoft Paint, and then okay, this is Microsoft Paint, and provide the connection. Obviously, this is the wired connection, and these are the wireless the connection. So the internet access is the internet bandwidth is 50 by the 50 Mbps. So this is the optical fiber connection, the fiber to the home. And the other one is these are the in devices of staff and students. So existing network have the same connection for both the students and staff. The Milcom Institute wants to segregate the network, one network for the students and the other network for the staff, which is the requirements. That requirements architecture you need to design for the solution. You deal with this one for both same. In devices. So these are the devices of students and okay, students and staff currently having internet access through the using the same network. And obviously, if they are using the same network, they are able to share the resources. That means the students are able to access the staff devices and staff devices, staff able to access the students' resources. So, and this is the existing network. Just give me one. Okay. So this is existing network. Paste here. So information about the existing network. And then the existing devices. So these devices, obviously, students' devices, students' devices, and so staff devices. So staff have this laptop. This is specification laptop for the staff. Students. So staff have i7 processor laptop. So with 8 GB of RAM. So you need to paraphrase all this. Please do not write any answer in bullet format. All has to be the descriptive language. And 200 GB hard disk space for the staff laptop, right? The staff devices. And then the staff and the students using this network for this task. So their uses the network. That means both staff and students using the network for messaging purpose. They use the internet for the messaging tasks, so email tasks for sending and receiving email and checking email and browsing 4K video. So this the on the tasks they are doing using the network, and for the web browsing and for the file sharing And for the video streaming, I think 4K streaming or video streaming via Zoom. Okay, uses the network for messaging, emailing, and by Zoom, and by both students and staff. So that means basically check the language. So staff and students using the network for messaging purpose, for the emailing purpose, browsing 4K video, or browsing fast sharing and video streaming by Zoom. So these are the tasks they are doing using the network. And then the students number. So currently they have current number. So currently they have 150 students, and current students number, maybe I'll write down here separately. Current students number is 150, and current staff number is 10. So future students number, they're expecting they're having 150 students in next 1 year, and future staff numbers is for their strategic plan. So they're having 250 students in 1 year and 20 staff in 1 year. So that means when you're designing the network, the architecture, that architecture should be able to handle the current bandwidth requirements as well as the future bandwidth requirements. So this is the expected number. And then budget they have is on the parameters or on the information. So I discuss about the scope, then discuss about the business specification and timeline within which the work must be completed. So timeline is 4 weeks. I think I forget to provide you this information for the network one. So just write down 4 weeks for the network one as well. And the budget they have is $70,000. But the $70,000 and the issue and the problems they are facing, why they need to design this network. So issues and problems. So one of the problems they are facing is slow internet, right? The slow internet. And the other issue they're facing is they are facing the slow internet is one of the issue, and so less security of staff resources. That means if they share the resources, that resources available for the students as well. So no security for the staff resources, so which is the on the issue they are facing. And on the justification for this is the printer is easily accessible to the students, so no security for the staff resources, and the other resources, other sensitive information if they share among the staff, so that the resources easily available for the students as well, because they are using the same network, the same wireless network. So no security for the staff resources. So this is the problem they are facing. So to solve this problem and to meet the requirements of the client, you need to design new architecture within this budget and within this time frame. And opportunities. So what are the opportunities for the organization when you're designing the new network? So one of the opportunity is so they can improve their network security. So improve network security. So this is one of the opportunity they could have when they design the new network. And the other one is the better bandwidth or enhanced bandwidth for staff and the students. So enhanced bandwidth for students and staffs. So these are the opportunity you can aid use. So these are the opportunity from my perspective when they design the new network. So they could improve these things. They could be to meet the requirements of the client and improve these things in the existing network. I think these are the information budget I already provided, the procedure to be followed, including the security arrangements. So what is the procedure? I think I discussed last time as well. The procedure to complete this task, procedure. So before starting tasks, obviously need to send email. For example, the one of the procedure is before starting the task or before site visit email has to before site visit email has to send to operational manager and need to get approval before starting the task, right? Okay. Before site visit email must send to operational manager. Okay. And the other procedure is all the WHS policy and procedure must follow throughout the project. And so then the other one is all the WHS policy and procedure must follow throughout the project. So on the procedure, and once they completed tasks, right? Tasks are completed. So final email must send to operational manager for the demonstration of the tasks and project sign off. I think these are some of the procedure must follow the procedure. And the other one is the issues, problems, opportunity I already discussed. So the last one is current and the future, the network traffic. You can use this information. I think I forget to explain you this information for the network one. So just write down the similar information for the network one as well. Then another one is the current and the future network traffic. So this starts, sorry, current and future network traffic demands. Please just indicate each of the topic with bold letter. Then I know that so the answer that you included on your project portfolio for the specific questions. Please each of the topic just write down in bold the topic, then write down your answer. Please write down all this answer in descriptive language. So you need to tell me the story. So all this story, all the things that I discuss here, just write down in the descriptive language. So for this one as well, write down in the descriptive. For this one as well, write down the descriptive language. So how you determine the current and future traffic demands. So in the previous network, in the network one, I use the other method to determine the calculation. I use the Zoom application as the main application for the client, and then figure out the bandwidth requirements for the Zoom from the Zoom website and calculate or multiply that with number of users. Here, I'm going to use the different approach for determining the bandwidth of the client, the current and the future bandwidth or traffic demands for the client. So it's called dimensioning. What I do is this is one of the user, so right? So this is one of the user. Then let's assume I'm one of the user of the network. Then I'm opening all the application that requires for the client and check the peak network demands and then multiply that with the number of students to determine the total bandwidth demands for the client, the total current bandwidth demands for the client, and total the future traffic demands for the client. Okay. So this is the messaging service they are using. What are the services? Uses the network for messaging, emails, browsing 4K video, web browsing, file sharing, video streaming by Zoom for both students and the staff. That means the requirements, the bandwidth requirements for per user is students and staff are similar. So once you determine the one user bandwidth requirements, then just you need to multiply that with the number of users. So for this task, what I do, I have this application, just give me a second. So you how to do that task. So share the network with this is the application WhatsApp we need use for the total bandwidth requirements. So download this application based on your operating system. So download this. I think I already downloaded and installed on my computer. Let me double check. So this is the application. So open this. Install update. Remind me later. So I'm using the wireless adapter. Just click on. So this is the traffic. So this is all the traffic that's going out from my network and coming in my network, in local area network. So, and if you go to the statistics and check here the IO graph, then you can check the total bandwidth demands here. So what you need to do, make sure this is bits per second, not the byte per second. By default, it has packets, the selection. Just you need to select the bits per second. Then it's easily you can convert that into the megabits per second. Okay. Make sure this y-axis, the parameters is bits per second. So then once you open this application in the background, open your network. So use the network for as per the requirements of the client. The client using the network for messaging purpose, what I do, I'll messaging you, messaging, WhatsApp, sorry, so for a while. So I'm using this and they are using the network for browsing 4K video. So I'm gonna go to YouTube and open one of the 4K video. Just give me a second. Mm, So I'm using this 4K video. just to simulate the requirements of the client. Looks like this is not the Poke, almost the Poke. So the Poke video, and obviously client using the Zoom. I'm also using Zoom to communicate with you, and browse the internet. Right. And what I do is I'll do messaging for you. Let me go through this one and WhatsApp for the web and send you a message. ICT60220. So I'm sending you to the WhatsApp the link to download. Right. So once you open all the application, just like the client requirements, open all the application that's going to use by client and check the total bandwidth demands here. So this is the peak bandwidth demands of the client. So you need to design this bandwidth for one user. So this is the one bandwidth, this is the maximum bandwidth requirements for one user. So just capture this, take the screenshot of this one. And this is almost 1.5 into 10 to the power 8 bits per second. So this is the bits, this is the peak network demands for the one user. Just take the snaping shot of the network. Okay, this should be different for yours, right? Just use the similar method and take the screenshot. So this is the screenshot. So this is the bandwidth requirements for the client is almost 1.5 into 10 to the power 8 bits per second. If you want to be exact, I think. Okay, if you want to be exact, just take the numbers from here, 1.5, 1.75. So this is almost 1.6 into 10 to the power 8. You know the skulls, right? So just read these skulls and based on that, pick the numbers. Copy. And you need to have the explanation. So how you determine the requirements of the client, the bandwidth requirements for the client. So here, need to explain here for the one user, but you need to explain the process. So we simulate the bandwidth requirements for the one user by opening all the application that requires or that need for the one client. And then we came to know that this is the peak bandwidth demands for the one users. And to determine the total bandwidth requirements for the client, we need to multiply. So this one user bandwidth requirements to number of total number of users. So let me go with the bandwidth requirements. So what is the bandwidth requirements for one user? So what is the bandwidth requirements for the one user? So 1.6 into 10 to the power 8, right? So converts bits to megabits per second. So convert bits per second to megabits per second. So 1 into 10 to the power 8. That means how many zeros? 8 zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And convert that. It's almost 10 megabits per second is the peak bandwidth requirements for one user. So 10 megabits per second is the peak bandwidth requirements for one user. Bandwidth requirements for one user, 10 megabits per second, or peak or maximum bandwidth requirements for the one user is 10 Mbps per second. Please explain the method, how you came to know these requirements of the client. So it could be different for you. So depending on the traffic, the demands should be around 5 to 10 Mbps. And then just you need to multiply with the current number of students and current number of the staff. So total bandwidth current number of students. That means you need to multiply that with number 10, which will be 150 0 obviously 150 Mbps bandwidth, right? So for the staff, just you need to multiply that with the total bandwidth requirements for current staff 10 into 10, that's 200 PS. For future students number, so 250 into 10, which will be 2500 PS. I think it's too large, this number. Multiply with 10. So almost 200 Mbps, because this is 10 Mbps. And in future, total the bandwidth requirements for the client is almost 2.5 GB, and for the client requires almost 200 Mbps for the future. To address the current requirements of the client, for the students, they need 1.5 Mbps, sorry, 1.5 GB the speed, and for the students, the current students, they need 100 Mbps. That means for the maximum, you need to design the network so that it can handle. So this bandwidth demands 2.5 Mbps, 2.5 GB, gigabit per second speed for the bandwidth for the students, and 200 Mbps bandwidth for the staff. And the other things that you need to consider is, so this is the educational institute and all the students not attending the class at the same time. That means they may not require this much bandwidth demands. Let's say, obviously you need to check the timetable. Let's say they have particular time, the 50% of the students in particular time. That means they need maximum of half of this bandwidth in any particular time. So there is no possible, there might be possibility because all the students might be in the college at the same time in that case. So this is the bandwidth, this is the peak bandwidth requirements in the college, and this is the peak bandwidth requirements for the students, and this is the peak bandwidth requirements for the staff. Need to double check the timetable, right, in the actual scenario. But here, just design the network for 2.5 gigabit per second for the students and 200 Mbps for the staff. Then at this part, I already discussed, just refer to the previous section. So I will discuss about the legislation, code regulation, and the standards that you need to consider for designing this network. Let's refer to the previous one. Sorry, I haven't shared the screen. Okay. So this is the peak bandwidth demands requirements for the one user, total bandwidth demands, total for the staff, the students, to meet the current requirements and to meet the future requirements. Just you need to multiply with that numbers. So we use on the approach to determine the bandwidth for the client. So alternative approach, and this approach I think it's much easier compared to the previous one. So it's up to you. Either you can use the previous approach or this approach. The legislation, just write down the one of the legislation applicable in this working condition and code of practice that you need to follow working in this network environment, the regulation, the standards. I think I already explained in the previous section and refer to the question number 1 of the assessment task 1. We already discussed this part. And site access, I think I already explained. Need to send email to the manager or to the operational manager before you're going for the site visit. So in the email, you need to explain to and from, obviously your email in the from, and this should be the business style email. That means you need to write down the greetings. Then in the body section of the email, you need to write down the purpose. So what is the purpose of the email? So to have access to the site visit. So draft an email that could be sent to the client to organize the site visit. So which is the main purpose? To organize the site visit is the main purpose of this email. And when you want to visit the site, so write down the date and the time. What time you want to visit the site? So write down the time as well in the email or time frame. And obviously need to have the signature, regards, and your name. Just compose one email. Then propose ICT network architecture design. This architecture design, document your proposed network architecture design using the network diagram tools. Make sure you also document the hardware and the software requirements. So let me go through the designing process and consider all the requirements of the client that design should address the requirements of the client as well as the bandwidth requirements of the client as well. So these bandwidth requirements of the client as well. Okay. Solution, right? So you can design two networks, one network for the students and the other network for the staff. It's up to you. Or one network and segregate the staff network and students network using the VLAN. So either you can use VLAN technology to segregate the staff network and the students network. Otherwise, design two separate network, one for the students and the other one for the staff. It's up to you. What I do, I'll design with a VLAN. So I'll design the network with VLAN. It's up to you. You can design the two networks, one for the students and the other one for the staff. So for the designing the network, obviously you need to use the WhatsApp. So obviously the internet we can use. And then router, I'm gonna change this devices. So others we need the firewall for the security. Okay, firewall for the security. Then we need router. So I want to segregate the load because the bandwidth demand is more than 2.5 gigabits per second. So that's why I'm going to use the dedicated device for different functionality. For the routing, I'm going to use dedicated device. For the security, I'm going to use dedicated hardware, which is firewall. And then for the switch, obviously, so group switch. We use to switch. And then the wireless network for the students. So for the wireless access point. It's up to you, right? Hmm. So this is one of the solution. You should not design exactly the same. You can design by yourself. And this wired connection for the staff. So this is the staff network and this is the students network. Maybe for this for the students. We duplicate this for the students and staff. Sorry. Okay. So we'll change it. Okay, wireless connection. I think that's all I need. The components wise. So for the connection, download this diagram, go to the file, go to the export and download this as a PNG. Once you have this diagram, the next process is open this diagram with Microsoft Paint. So this is the diagram. Let's right click and open with the paint and provide the connection. So this is the wireless connection. Sorry. Let's press shift. And then this is this connection. And this is the connection for the redundancy. Just like a network one, you could see the Ethernet channel bundling for the redundancy. And then this is the wired connection. This is the wired connection for the AP. And these stop devices are connected to the wireless connection, the wired connection. Sorry.
हाँ मैं बना चुकी हूँ यहाँ डायग्राम अभी
इतना लग जाएगा
So this is the diagram, right? Now this network going to use by the students. So the wireless network for the students network, this network, and this network is going to use by the students, and this wired network is going to use by the staff. Maybe I'll change the color. Okay, maybe green. Okay. Then how to logically, because physically we have same network for students and staff. So need to logically segregate the network. So how is it possible? Just write down the different VLAN numbers. So just give it the VLAN number, VLAN, any numbers, VLAN number 400 for the the staff, that means all the computers which has the phone VLAN able to exist, able to share the resources with each other, and just put the wireless network with a different VLAN. For example, I'm going to use black, use the VLAN, let's say 30, and the same VLAN for the other wireless VLAN 30. So this is the students network. And obviously this is the student network. And this is the staff network. So physically they are in the same network, all the students and the staff, but logically you segregate the network using the VLAN. The VLAN technology, you can segregate the network. That means all the computers which are connected to the VLAN phone are able to share the resources with each other. But this VLAN, for example, if this computer connected with the VLAN 30, they are not able to access the resources from the VLAN phone virtual LAN, because they are in different VLAN. These staff computers are in different VLANs. That's why wireless computer won't be able to access the resources from the staff network, the VLAN, the virtual technology. Maybe I'll explain you detail about the VLAN or the configuration in next week class. This is one of the technology. Otherwise, what you can do, you can design the network, this network for one for the staff and the other one for the students. For the students, need to be the wireless is for the requirements of the client. The staff, it has to be the wired connection, right? If you want to use two networks. Okay. Just write down here. Okay, please use draw by yourself. Draw by yourself your architecture, right? You can't use this. And the other one is we need to have 5G backup this router. 5G, maybe use different color. This 5G backup or 4G backup, it's up to you. I think 5G backup. And just giving the name of the components. This is the firewall. And this is obviously the router. And this is switch. Switch and switch. I think this is one of the architecture, yes, for the requirements of the client. So only things we need to determine here, the total bandwidth requirements is for this discussion. So what is the total bandwidth requirements to address the current and the future, the bandwidth demands of the client? So total bandwidth, just you need to add this, the future maximum they need to 2500 Mbps, the bandwidth, and plus 200. What is the total Mbps? 2700 Mbps, which is the total bandwidth. Just convert that, right? So convert Mbps to gigabit per second. Just you need to divide by 1024. Also use the calculator, GP gigabit per second. So we have total 2700 Mbps the bandwidth demands to address the students demand and the staff demands. Just you need to add these two, the maximum to address the current and the future. So 2700 Mbps, that would be 2.7 Gbps. 2.7 Gbps, that means you need to have network here. So you need to have the bandwidth here, 2.7 Gbps. So you need to buy the bandwidth from the internet service provider. So minimum of 2.7 Mbps to address the current requirements and the future requirements. And the other things that you need to consider is if you buy the bandwidth from the internet 2.7 Gbps, so each of the devices should have the minimum throughput speed of this. Otherwise, there is no benefit of buying. So this much the bandwidth from the ISP. So this should be capable of handling 2.7 Gbps, the speed of the internet, and this device should be able to handle the 2.7 Gbps. That means the throughput speed of the device should be minimum of this much speed. Then only you get the benefit of 2.7 Gbps, the bandwidth that you purchase from the ISP. So this is one of the network architecture design, the solution architecture design. So just include that solution architecture design based on your own research. Maybe I'll give you more architecture design and discuss the benefit and demerits of the different architecture design in next week class. So design the solution here, the new architecture design. So propose ICT network architecture design. So it has your diagram. You can attach one diagram just like this using the VLAN. Otherwise, you can design the separate network, one for the staff and the other one for the students. In that case, so this should be for the students, it should be minimum 2.7 Gbps for the students, and the staff has to be 200 Mbps, I guess. It's 200 Mbps. For the 20 staff, it requires the maximum of 200 Mbps. So do not use my diagram. Still, some of the students are using my diagram in your assessment. So I'm checking your assessment. You know that, right? So I'm not going to accept that assessment. Okay, let me go to next section, which is okay. I'll use landscape layout. So propose ICT network architecture design, use diagram. Document your proposed network architecture design using the network diagram tools. Make sure you also document the hardware and the software that you needed. So just like a previous networks, the network one. So list out the hardware and the software that you need each for your diagram. Example, so how many hardware you have used in your design? So we have used router. So how many routers you have used in your new solution? So one routers. And if you design the two separate networks, one for the students and on the one for the staff, the two separate physical network, in that case, the total number of routers you need will be 2. Router firewall. This design, I need only one firewall. And then switch I need is for the diagram, the 3 hardware. Sorry. 3, then other hardware I need are cables. Maybe altogether I need 100 meters of cables. Or you could say category 6 cable or category 7 cable, cat 8 cables, because bandwidth demands is high. So go with cat 8 cables. And then other components, other hardware you need, switch, then I think that's all the hardware you need. And software you need, do you have any specific software? Obviously, for all the organization, they need the word processor. So I'm going to use here Microsoft Office 365 for the email and the word processor and the spreadsheet, and Adobe the reader. Then obviously they need Zoom application because the students and staff, they are using Zoom. Obviously, Zoom, the subscription requires only for the staff, not for the students. Zoom subscription for staff. I think these are the hardware and software requires is for the design solution, is for the architecture solution. Need the attached diagram of your design diagrams to your portfolio. I think need to attach the diagrams here, and is for the diagrams, list out the hardware required and the software required. Then network architecture use design report, provide the report on the following. So this is the important section. You need to explain the strength of your design. So how your network meets the bandwidth requirements of the client. You need to explain logically, right? Theoretically. And then how your network meets the future demands, the future traffic demands of the network. So you need to explain the strength of your diagram, the features of your diagram, and the performance requirements. So how you can check the performance of your design. So you need to explain the procedure here. And then the cost of the hardware and the software. In the previous section, you have identified the hardware that you need for the design and the software you need for your design. Now you need to do the costing. And the overall recommendation. If you need a specific features device, for example, for the router, we need the specific features, which is the 5G capable of the router. So you need to explain that part. And all the devices must have minimum of 2.5 gigabits per second, the processing capabilities. So that's the specific recommendation that you need to write down here. Okay, let me go through individual section first. What I do, I'll take a break for the 10 minutes, then resume the session. Okay. Pause this recording for the 10 minutes, then I'll resume this session. Okay, let's resume the assessment task 2, the continue the explanation. I just copied the questions from left hand side. So first we need to discuss the impact of the design network on the business requirements. Basically, you need to explain here, how does your network meet the functional needs of the client? So here need to answer the impact on the impact section. So how does your network meet the functional requirements of the client? So this and other quality things, right? They need to explain how your network meets the bandwidth requirements, the current and the future bandwidth requirements of the client, and then how your network is redundant. So you need to explain the redundancy requirements, so bandwidth, the redundancy, and then need to explain about the security, which is on the requirements of the client. Need to basically justify your design. And the scalability. So how does your network meets all these requirements? You need to justify your answer. So let me go to the requirements of the client. So this is the task that you need to complete. So create effective, secure, scalable, redundant, and highly available network within the budget for the students and the staff. You need to explain how students able to access the network separately and how students able to access the network separately. You need to explain that part as well. So students must have internet connection via the wireless medium, and the students must have internet connection from the wired medium. So how it is possible with your design network? So you need to provide the justification. And students are not allowed to access the staff network. How you have put the restriction between the students and the staff network? So you need to justify your answer. So, and this the traffic demands, the bandwidth demands. I think we already discussed about this part. So let me go through this section. So impact of your network design with business requirements. Let me go with the first, the network, the requirements. So how your network is separate to the, let me go with the functional requirements first. You have, let me copy this answer, copy this design. Okay, forget all this. So how does network meets the functional requirements? So how each of these functional requirements of the client you have addressed, how you have addressed these requirements. So how your network is secure. In your network, you have used the firewall. That means all the internet traffic that's coming in to the local area network will be filtered through the firewall, and all the networks that's going out from the local area network to the internet will be filtered through the firewall. So you have used the firewall for the security. And the other features that you have used on your design network, maybe I'll copy and explain you that answer. Your design solution. It's not the one. Looks like I forget to save this time. Machine from save blank diagram one. Okay. So first requirements is, maybe I'll go side by side. So one of the requirements is this. So you need to justify how you have addressed these requirements of the client in your diagram. So how this network is secure. For the security, you have implemented the firewall. That means all the traffic that's going out from this local area network to the internet will be inspected and filtered through the firewall. And all the traffic that's going in from the internet to your local area network, again, it's filtered through the firewall. So you have installed this for the security. And the other features that you have used in the network is for the security is VLAN. That means you have separate the students network and the staff network through the VLAN. That means all the computers which are connected to the same VLAN able to access the resources. Otherwise, they can't access the resources from the other VLAN. That means students network you have connected with a different VLAN, all the students network with VLAN number 30, and staff network you have assigned the VLAN number 400. That means the students won't be able to access the staff resources. And how this network is scalable. Sorry. So how this network is scalable. So if need to require to expand this network, how is it possible in the future? So this network, you have designed the bandwidth up to for 2.7 gigabits per second. That will be more than sufficient for 220 users to use the messaging service, the the email services, the 4K video browsing, and for all the tasks. That's why this network meets the current requirements and the future requirements of the client. And if need to require to expand this network, it's easily expandable through the existing network. Through you can add the switch here and add that switch to the distribution switch to expand the network in future. So that's why this network is scalable. And other features of this design network is how this network is redundant. So you have multiple redundant paths to have internet access by the client. So you have implemented redundancy in local area network. For example, if this link is not working, still have internet access from the alternative link, and you have used ether channel bundling between the distribution switch and the router. That means if one link is not working, still provide the internet connection through the alternative link. And you have used the 5G backup on the router. That means if the internet is not available from the ISP, which is connected to the wired medium through the optical fiber, still have internet access to the end users through the 5G backup. So this is for the redundancy. That redundancy requirements you have implemented in this way in your design diagram. And then other things that you need to explain is how this network is highly available. So you need to explain your strength of your designing. So one is redundancy. Redundancy is one of the requirements for the highly available network. So explain the redundancy. We have implemented the redundancy in the network. So that means this network is highly available. And the other features you could discuss here is bandwidth. The bandwidth we determine through this process, explain the process. And the minimum bandwidth requirements for the one user is 10 Mbps. And we calculated the total number of users. We have calculated total number of users and multiplied that with the bandwidth requirements for the one users. And we designed the network to capable of handling 2.7 gigabits per second. Each of the components are able to handle that speed, that bandwidth we purchase from the ISP. That's why it meets the bandwidth requirements of the client. Okay, explain that part as well. And this network, that's why, is highly available. To design the network which can cope with the current and future demands, obviously, we explain the current demands is this 1.7, almost 1.6 gigabits per second, but you have designed the network to meet the current requirements as well as the future requirements. Explain these numbers. And other functional requirements is students must have internet connection via the wireless medium, and the staff must have internet connection from the wired medium. So explain that part that you have designed in your network. So staff able to access the internet through the wired medium, and the students able to access the internet through the wireless medium. The students must type in the SSID and the password to access the internet. And you have implemented encryption for the wireless connection for the security. And other requirements is students are not allowed to access the staff network. For this restriction, you have implemented VLAN. So either you can design the separate network for students, one network for the students and the other network for the staff. So this is the one way that you can segregate the traffic for students and the staff. The other way is you can design the same network and use the VLAN technology in the switch to segregate the network for the wireless connection and the wired connection. Wired connection, you provide the internet to the staff. Through the wireless connection, you are providing internet to the students. I think we discussed all the impact in your design. Basically, you need to design the strength of your design in the impact and forecasted traffic and how the network design will be able to cater for this. I think here theoretically need to explain all the things that you discussed before. How you determine the bandwidth requirements for the client. So explain this part. So we have used the simulated environment and open all the application that's gonna be used by individual user. The users gonna be use the network for messaging purpose, video browsing, the 4K video, Zoom. We open all the application and determine the peak bandwidth requirements for one users using the WhatsApp And we came to know that for these requirements, we need the 10 Mbps for one users, and that we need to multiply with total number of users in futures. And students requires 200 Mbps, 2500 Mbps bandwidth in future. And for the 20 staff requires total of 200 Mbps in the futures. And this network is designed is to meet the current and the future demands of the client. And the bandwidth we process from the ISP has a 2.7 Gbps gigabit per second bandwidth. So that's why this network is capable of handling the forecasted the traffic demands of the client. Explain that part. And performance parameter which you will be used to assess the network and likely performance based on the design. The performance parameters must be reflect the standard industry benchmark. And here I think we discussed last week as well. Just refer that answer to discuss this part. Let me go through this one, the performance parameters. Speed. So how you check the speed, the upload speed and the download speed. What is your minimum speed that you need in your organization? Obviously, 2.7 Mbps, which is the benchmark, right? 2.7 Mbps. I think benchmark you can write down the minimum because all the students may not be in the college at the same time. So maybe 2.0, not Mbps, Gbps. Gbps could be the benchmark for this network design. And the latency, the packet loss and the connection. So latency, what is the benchmark for the latency? Maybe 200 milliseconds should be all right. So packet loss up to 10% packet loss you can consider okay, because the client using the network for the video browsing. So in the video browsing, you don't need the secure connection. Use UDP connection. UDP connection, the 10% packet loss is all right. You still can construct the original message, and connection need to be secure. So I think connection is on the parameters that you can use to determine the network connection. So it should be the 100% successful. So this is the benchmark. I'll go through this again, right? And test route, I think you can use the same parameters. To get the same parameters, either use the ping or trace route to check the performance of the network. And strength of the signal, for the wireless connection, you need minimum of minus 60 dBm to browse these services, to use these services by the students. And less than this means need minus 50 dB or minus 40 dBm, and near to the source you get almost minus 60 dB, minus 30 dBm, which is the maximum. Minus 30 dBm is the maximum strength that you get just next to the Wi-Fi. And for this service, minimum you need minus 60 dBm. Okay, let me go through each of these parameters, how to check these parameters. Obviously, for the speed, you know how to check the speed. Speed test. Check the speed. Use the speed test, this software, to this link to check the speed of the internet. See the speed in above, right? Much better than Australia. If you have fiber to the node, if you have fiber to the premises, maybe on the story, otherwise much better than fiber to the node. Okay. So this is the speed test. This is the procedure that need to follow for the testing the speed, testing the speed performance of the design network. So explain this procedure. And the other one is how to check the, obviously, upload speed and download speed. You can check from this method. and the bandwidth you need minimum of 2.0 Gbps is for your design network. It's my assumption, right? Your assumption could be different. And the ping for the latency and packet loss and connection, how you check those the performance parameters in your network. To check these performance parameters, just go to the command prompt, and from the command prompt, choose this and type in ping, then any website. Okay, these are the performance parameters. The latency, this is the average latency, which is 54 Mbps. 54 milliseconds. You need is for this the assumption you need less than 200 Mbps. I think this range is within the standards. And packet loss is less than 10%. So you have 0% packet loss. This is the method that you can use to check this performance in your design network. And connection need to be 100% secure, successful. All you get reply back. So 4 packets that you sent, and you get in reply back for all those 4 packets. So connection is 100% successful. So packets sent 4, received 4. That means it's 100% the successful connection between this computer and this server, which is www.google.com.au. And trace route the similar way that you can use to check these performance parameters. So go to the command prompt. Then instead of typing ping, just typing TRACERT. www.google.com.au. You have sent 3 packets, and you get reply back for those 3 packets. And first one, the latency is 1 millisecond. The second one, the latency is 1 millisecond, and third one is latency 2 milliseconds. So average, obviously, you can do add all this and divide by 3. And this is the latency between my computer and the router. And this is the latency between this router is forwarding this packet to this router. And the latency between my computer and that router is this. Latency between my computer and the other router is this. And it's give you latency all the way up to the server, which is this IP address is the server of google.com.au. And the total latency, the average latency, obviously, just add all these 3 and divide by 3, you get the average latency. So now it's up to 99. You get at the last this server. So this is the server, this is the Google server, and latency between my computer and the server is 44, 44, 44. Obviously, the average latency is 44 milliseconds. And all the packets are successful, only this one is not successful. Other than that, you get all the reply back from the server. You get all the packets, response for all the packets. So this is the way that you can use, this is the method that you can use to check the performance parameters, the latency performance parameters, the packet loss down the performance parameters, and connection is on the performance parameters. So either you can use ping or trace route. And the strength of the signal. For the strength of the signal, Wi-Fi analyzer. So use one of these tools. There are a number of tools that you can use to check the strength of the signal. I have now here minus 65 dBm. One good signal is still fine. The recommendation is should be greater than minus 60 dBm. So that means it should be greater than minus 60 dBm means minus 50 dBm, minus 55 dBm. So more than minus 60 dBm means minus 70 dBm, minus 90 dBm. Minus 90 dBm is zero signal. That means you won't detect any signal from the access point. So this is the method that you can use to measure the strength of the signal, which is on the performance parameters. So just discuss this. You don't need to test actually, just you need to theoretically explain how you can use, how you can determine the performance parameters of the network to assess the performance of your design network. So we're going to use speed to check the upload the performance parameters and download the performance parameters, and how you're going to use, just explain the method. We need to go to this website and check the upload speed and download speed and the ping. So on the performance parameters, from the ping we get latency, connection, and the packet loss performance parameters. For this, you need to go to the command prompt and type in the destination server IP address or domain name, ping space the destination server IP address or domain name, then you get these parameters. The benchmark is, for this one, the benchmark is 2 Gbps, and benchmark for the latency is 200 Mbps. Up to 300 Mbps should be all right. And packet loss is 10%, and the connection requires 100% successful. And trace route, obviously the same way. So need to go to the command prompt and type in TRACERT, this command, TRACERT, then the IP address or the domain name of the destination server. In this case, we have used www.google.com.au, and then check these parameters. Again, you get the same parameters. And benchmark, we already discussed. The strength of the signal, there are a number of software that you can use to check the strength of the signal of the Wi-Fi. And the performance parameters is, the standard performance parameters is minus 60 dBm. The strength of the signal should be greater than minus 60 dBm, which is the benchmark. Okay, any questions here? You may have questions when you start doing your assessment. So cost of the hardware and the software purpose. You already determine the hardware and the software that you need for your designing. So now you need to determine the costing for each of these hardware. So determine the cost for each of these hardware and the software. And the overall recommendation. Do you have any specific recommendation? Yes. So router must have routing, and obviously router has routing features, routing and 5G features. So this is one of the recommendation. All the devices must have gigabit processing capabilities. I think this is the only recommendation regarding the performance, which is the last question. Then let's go to the section 2 of the network 2. I think you know the answer. The answer going to be similar for the network 2 as well. Just go through the section 1 and need to explain the training and the support. The similar answer, how to record the Zoom session, how to set up the meetings, need to provide this information to the client. And these are the support and the training requires for the client. Maybe here you need to add more tasks, for example, for the network 2, the training and the support. So these are obviously the common things you need to provide training for the staff and the students. Maybe how to connect Wi-Fi network. Need to provide obviously training to the students to connect to the Wi-Fi networks. Sometimes, yes. And the hardware and the software supplies. So the similar answer that you answered for the previous section for the network 1. So first list out all the hardware is for your recommendation, and for each of the hardware and each of the software you need to provide this information for each of the hardware and the software. For each of the hardware and software, you need to provide this information. Control IP. Write down the name first. If it is router, write down router, switch, whatever it is, the list or the list and a model. So with these features, with requirements of the client, the specification, go through the router or switch or access point and write down few of the specification. For example, access point. You can go with this one as well. So this is example of TP-Link access point. And these are some of the specifications. Just write down few of main specification in your own language. So, and then cost from the supplier one, provide the screenshot evidence. So look at the same model from the two suppliers. You are going with TP-Link. So this model, TP-Link, this model. So this is the cost from the Imagine, and on the website, go to on the website and figure out the cost and write down, take the screenshot and put the screenshot here. The cost from the suppliers one and cost further from the suppliers two, and minimum cost that you need to refer for the costing section. You determine the cost right in the previous section. Costing of the hardware here. So minimum cost is for your research. Write down here the cost of the router. The minimum cost from the two suppliers, whichever has minimum cost, write down that cost for the firewall. For each of the hardware, you need to write down this information. So model, the specification cost from the suppliers one. So need to do for all the hardware. For example, the router, then you have on the hardware is switch. Then on the hardware you have is the firewall. Then on the hardware you have is access point. On the hardware you may have is computer, if not having sufficient computer or laptop. Then I think these are the hardware, right? And software, what are the software you have? One of the software is Office 365. Model, obviously, there is no model for the Office 365. So model is maybe write down the specification, and there is only one supplier. Just write down the cost from the one supplier. And on the software, maybe you need Adobe, a PDF reader. Maybe software is PDF reader. Adobe is one of the suppliers. And for this one as well, just go through the specification cost from the two suppliers. And then other software is maybe the Zoom and specification, and obviously there would be only one suppliers. So write down only one suppliers. Okay, that's all. Any questions? So what I do, I'll stop this recording.